G'day folks, another beautiful day, and I thought I'll give another yarn about damaged BDD. Yes, so I got some feedback from my last video, and it was not surprising feedback. The feedback was that the whole concept of damaged BDD and behavior driven testing, the whole product is really complicated, and it's not easy to understand what it does and what's it's all about, what's all the hype about. So yes, it is a fairly abstract concept, as most things are in software. People don't realize it does not become tangible until you got it in an app in your phone, and that's the standard now. It used to be desktop apps back in the 90s. You've got to have an app on the desktop to make software tangible. Even though there might be a server somewhere in the cloud nobody knows about running all kinds of abstractions. So it goes deep. So in order to try to stay focused on the mission, I've really tried to keep damage BDD as minimal and simple as possible. So basically it's just right now it is in production. Production as in it's in prod. It's on. You can hit damagebdd.com and actually start using it if you sign up and all of that. Hit me up for some tokens if you want, or you can pay for the tokens and get it and use it. But otherwise, it's basically a very simple tool. It's just an API that's been exposed right now, so you could just write a BDD test in a simple plain text. Open up Notepad, look up the steps that are given in the manual, damagebdd.com/manual, and just use those steps to start writing features. Once you've written out a feature in a text file, just as it stands right now, it's an API, so there are two ways to execute the test. Either you use something like Postman. Postman is pretty common, simple, almost everybody uses it, testers and all that. Personally, I'm not a big fan of Postman. I'd rather just use curl. Why do you need anything else if you have curl? Curl, C-U-R-L, curl. So that's the thing. So we've got an app that we've got an API. You can just post a plain text file to. It'll execute the instructions in that plain text file, and send you a link to the results. Not so complicated, and obviously the execution record is stored on the blockchain, so you can always just look up your wallet ID, wallet ID, and look up all the test cases that were run against your account, and see how much it costs and all of that, and transparency, all the stuff that I talk about, accountability, transparency, accessibility, openness, all of that stuff is all real. I'm not just making stuff up. I've done the work for it, and it's already in production. You can sign up and start using it. I am working on a simple web UI, but the web UI is very simple. It's just basically a text box. You can enter the thing and hit submit, and it'll run it, and it'll give you a report, and you can just click on it and see the report. The report's not very pretty. It's obviously it's a very it's a kind of like almost a beta version, 0.1. I'm working on, probably you could call it the 0.2 release, with a lot more fun features. The power of this stuff is pretty awesome, obviously, and that's why I'm pretty excited about it. In terms of I do have plans of building more UIs. The thing with once I have a solid API, building UIs is pretty trivial. I mean, the complexity of everything, the core of it is in the server side. That'll never change because the server side will always have the potential to have, do more than the client, in a sense, because clients are limited by, generally speaking, clients are limited by the nature of the way it is all mobile. So thin client kind of thing. So right now, Damage BDD, there's one node running. And you can just hit that node with an API request with a feature, and it'll execute that feature for you and give you a report. Simple as that. Currently supported HTTP testing, Selenium, Appium, through Chrome driver extensions. Obviously, the costs for running a simple HTTP test versus a cost for running a Selenium Appium test would vary. You need more damage tokens to run tests on Selenium and Appium. Currently the load testing feature of Damage BDD is in the early stage. I have tested it out myself. Really, obviously one of the things that I have to work on is build a suite of sample tests and some examples showing how this can be used. Now, the previous project that I've worked on used to have hundreds of BDD files maintained by testers who their job was to come on daily and review the test cases, make sure all the tests are passing, improve on the test cases continuously. So that's a role of a tester in a BDD environment, to maintain these test cases. And the reason why I don't have any fancy management interfaces and all that stuff for Damage BDD is everybody knows how to manage text files. Developers know how to manage text files. Use an IDE. So, write your test cases in an IDE like any normal, sane person would, instead of using some clunky UI, just a text editor, write the test cases, So for a professional, scalable operation, you would end up with thousands of these files that describe every little nuance of your product. You might have a huge product that spans across multiple sectors, domains, whatever, but all of that functionality can be defined as BDD. And Damage BDD can continuously keep verifying this functionality. Now, here's the thing: to build infrastructure around BDD testing, it's a full-time job, because you need to have an infra team who's going to manage that BDD infrastructure. Sure, the normal way, if Damage BDD did not exist, the alternative is something like Behave or Cucumber, wherein Behave is Python, Cucumber is Java. So if you want, and plus reporting functionality, all of that stuff, that's infrastructure you have to manage. That's like your team has to manage all that stuff. What's that stuff? You got to have one server to run Behave, which is going to run the tests, or Cucumber. You need to have a Java capable VM. That's like, I'm talking about a 4-core machine with at least 32 GB RAM, and it's going to run you up, $1,000 on whatever cloud, and run your, credits down. With Damage BDD, the cost just comes down significantly, because first of all, there's no Java, there's no Python. It's written in Erlang with C extensions. So in terms of scalability, it's a no-brainer. You could get up and running within 2 minutes, because, well, how fast can you hit an API that fast? Like, just sign up, confirmation link is required. I do have to do KYC to operate in Australia. So you do need to put in your email address to get a Damage BDD address or wallet or account, and to operate Damage BDD servers. So yeah, once you get the email link, and then you can just start using it using an API. If you're comfortable with API, or your IDE probably would have features to send a post request. I've already got an Emacs plugin to send the test to Damage BDD and get the results. All that stuff is super simple. Everything is super simple. Text file, enter the test steps. plain text, send it as an API request, get the response. Results are stored on chain through IPFS. So a lot of infrastructure you don't have to worry about. And of course, once I start the distributed nature of this program, which is once I implement the publish test feature, I would have the buy sell dynamic going. So the sell side would be putting up a test case, a requirement for a test case with a amount of funds locked in through the blockchain, obviously. And whoever completes that test case, and makes the test pass, automatically gets the funds released to them. So that's the possibility. And because you can have test cases that verify other test cases, you could build on that and start off with a simple test, get somebody to implement it, and they get automatically paid. The next day you come out and look at it and oh yeah, okay, he's done that bit, let me just add this bit more to the test case, and now the passing test now suddenly starts failing. Now who was on the other end looks at it, oh yeah, this test is failing now, and what is my incentive to fix it? Obviously the daily rate or whatever you want to call it, or however you want to compensate your tester for writing that test case. You can just think of it like taking an envelope, writing a test case on a piece of paper, putting that paper with a few notes of few dollars, paper notes to make it more relatable, put a few dollars in the envelope along with the test case, put an just put it on a public board or something like that, and people just pick it off. Well, simply speaking, so once somebody else gets that envelope, you give that envelope to somebody who you want them to do the work, so they've got but that's just very simple, trying to make it simple. But basically it's make the test case pass and you get your payout. And you can build on that because you can chain tests together, multiple, and obviously, have, once you start chaining these tests, you can refer. So your daily regression, if it doesn't pass, you could make it such that, if your daily regression does not pass, then you don't get the full amount. Or, it depends on how you want to play your business, but you could set it up to have different conditions for payment. All of that is pretty trivial through DamageBDD. And because it's all a text file, it's simple to start with. But then, I do have plans to make a more comprehensive UI. My primary goal is to have a simple one thumb operation. I follow the rule of one thumb. Mobile app development. Here's a concept. Okay, here's a concept. The rule of one thumb. What's the rule of one thumb? The rule of one thumb app, or the one thumb app, thumbs up app. One thumb app. So what's the rule of one thumb app? You should be able to operate the app with just one thumb, right? So you're holding your phone in your hand, you're standing in the bus stop or whatever, you're commuting, or you got some time, and you can just use one hand to operate, test cases, because autocomplete, assisted with AI. So basically just put some data into in with one finger input, and then basically the DamageBDD test generation AI will generate the test for you, which you can review and say execute it. Now that's another cool feature about DamageBDD I probably want to touch on, is that DamageBDD has obviously is integrated with an LLM, not just one. I've got two LLMs in there. One LLM to generate the test case and another LLM to generate the code from the test case. So when it gets fully realized, the way I imagine it, you would have an endpoint where you just post some, little bit of data, I want a test case for a login for this site, right? And then the DamageBDD test generation AI would take that input and and along with the predefined test steps that are available in DamageBDD, and generate a test case using the steps and satisfying the requirements original input by the user. So now you got a test generation side of it. Now the user can review the test and say, okay, this test pretty much looks like what I want it to be. Hit run, and it obviously executes the test. That is if you have an implementation. If you don't have an implementation, the second AI will generate an implementation for you. Currently, it will generate a Python implementation for any BDD that you can give it. And it will run that Python server and run the test case against that Python server and give you a report. And that's my trip for today. Good day.